Now, the next thing that I had a problem with was the journal boxes. The readily available four-wheel cabooses did not have a journal box that was configured that looked anything like the O&W journal boxes. And I really searched high and low. And my good friend Mal Houck gave me, at one time, a brass Great Northern four-wheel caboose. And that brass caboose had a very close representation of the journal box that the O&W used. So I took that brass journal box off. You can start making it. And I started to do castings. I made a couple of castings of the journal boxes, glued everything together, put them into this box, poured some rubber mold material on top of them, which you could see here, and eventually got these underframe pieces together, which I then started to assemble onto the floorboards or the floor sections of the caboose. Here's a couple more pictures of them being assembled. The next thing we had to do was to get rid of those doors, and as you can see, I cut them out, and then those are abrasive sanding sticks, flexible abrasive sanding sticks, which Microlux sells, and I used that to kind of clean out that whole doorway. And there's the door cut out from one of the Bachmann Reading cabooses, which had the right door, but nothing else. And here we're gluing the door into place. And then finally we start to see what the cabooses look like when they got assembled. One of the problems I had, if you can see closely, the support rods down on the underframe, which were made of resin, started to buckle. And so you can see they almost look like garden hoses attached to the bottom. Ultimately, I removed those and used brass bar stock to make them nice and straight. Again, now we're taking a look at the Scranton Division prototype picture and the model as it started to look with the door in place and the safety screens for the rock throwing, the rocks that came up from the tracks. Now these models are not really what I would call contest quality models. These models were built to make me feel good and to get a representation of what these four-wheel cabooses really look like. So I probably wouldn't enter these into a contest simply because there are too many things that would, they wouldn't get a very high mark. Obviously, you can see this one doesn't even sit straight on the table. There's a piece of rubber band in the back so that the wheels are, kind of straight. But I think it turned out very well. This was a caboose that they used the red flags on the back. This early caboose also had red marker lights on the back of the caboose and a big light up on the top. And I kind of liked the way they looked. Now here's a shot of the same type of caboose and what my model looked like when it was not completely finished. And it's getting there. It's pretty close. The window arrangement, the doors, the cupola, it all starts to look pretty much like an O&W caboose. Again, here's a shot of the same caboose I showed you a couple of minutes ago, full shot in the back. And this one shows buffers right in the center underneath where the little man is standing. There are two spring-loaded buffers which were also used. These were really European-style buffers that were used on coal trains. Obviously, if there was a pusher engine in the back and the load ahead wasn't these were wood-framed cabooses, and the load wasn't too great, these things would act as buffers between the coal cars and the caboose. Here's a side view of the four-wheel caboose. And you'll notice that I've got those underframe pieces are really wiggly, and they got replaced. But also, I separated the underframe from the caboose itself. There was a definite separation between the body and the underframe. Here's another shot of that same caboose, a side view, and here I have replaced those squiggly resin rods with some brass rods. And I kind of like this picture. Looks pretty good. This is still 8138. I think this is the last picture I have of this particular caboose. Again, the one that you saw a minute ago. Now this is a second, I made 4 cabooses, and this is a second one, very similar to the first one. In this case, it's hard to see it, but just above the coupler, you will see that now they have blocks placed in there instead of the round buffer springs that they used. And some of these cabooses did have wooden blocks there, I guess also to as strikers between the coal cars and the caboose. This one also, go back for a second, I also do have the uncoupling hardware on there. There's an uncoupling rod with a chain down to the coupler. That's the same caboose side view. Again, same caboose with a 3/4 view. And this one is another prototype shot showing one of the safety improvements, which was to put the steps instead of the stirrups. Okay. You can move on. That one showed the marker lights. I had included, go back to that one for a second. I put marker lights on this one, which I don't think I had on some of the others. Okay. Fine. Again, that's the caboose basically that we're going to model next. I think the next one's going to be the Unadilla Valley. Here we go. This one had slightly more modern marker lamps on it. You can see the ladders. I did include, but I think I may, excuse me for a minute here, I think I may have put the ladders on the wrong side on this car, if I'm not mistaken, but the roof walks are on there. So this is a truly unique Unadilla Valley car that only Joe Bux has. Go ahead. Now we're coming to the end of the presentation, and I was up at Arkville on Labor Day weekend, and this is now the restored O&W Caboose that I showed you the underframe only of many, many years ago. It had to be 20 years ago when they took that caboose apart, but basically it is now virtually completely restored. It looks like it needs some labeling on the side of it. Here's another shot that I took of it. And there's some details there. They've got the steps. There's a shot of the steps that they put on. Good side view. And it shows the underframe. And they took that underframe, the old one. They had the journal boxes recast. They had the clevis recast. And we have a couple of detailed shots of that. There's a closer shot of the underframe with virtually all new metal pieces on there. There's a nice shot with the NY O&W cast into the journal box frame, like the original. There's the clevis plate. And here, last 2 pictures. They did get the O&W emblem on the side of it. And these 2 pictures, this one and the next one, were taken at, I believe it was called some kind of rail corridor preservation day, which occurred only a couple of weeks ago, and these very nice pictures were taken of the caboose. One last note, I don't know if they've got a place to keep this thing sheltered in the winter and from weather, and it seems to me that it would be an awful shame to leave this thing out in the weather simply to deteriorate. And I'd like someone to see whether or not the UND has a place for it, and if not, I think it'd be a worthy cause to even get one of these portable buildings that you can get today made of plastic and metal rods just to shelter it temporarily, because having put this much work into restoring this caboose, it would be a terrible shame to see this thing just deteriorate. Anyway, that's my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it.